Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome back to another video here. ZakIsCinema is just for all those people out there that if you try to find someone on the street or go to talk to a coworker and tell them how you go to the movies at least like once a week, maybe even 2-3 times a week, and they just stop and stare at you like something's maybe wrong with you, and they're like, you go to the theater that much? And you're like, yeah, I like the theater experience, I like the seats, I like the atmosphere that it creates with all the big speakers around me. And you try telling them about a recent movie that you just saw in theaters, and they're like, yeah, I don't go to the theater, can I watch it on Disney Plus? And you're just trying to explain to them that it's not even a Disney movie, and then they keep asking you, well, can I watch it on Disney Plus? And then you just say yes and walk away. If you can relate, you have found the right place here at ZakIsCinema, so welcome. Yes, today we're going to be doing another first-time watch reviews. For anybody new here, these first-time watch reviews are just me watching a movie for the first time and then coming here to give you guys my thoughts on it. So yes, let's jump right into it here. Today we're going to be doing a first-time watch review for The Blackcoat's Daughter, which was released in 2015. So for The Blackcoat's Daughter, for director and writer, we got Osgood Perkins, which, as many people know, I think that he's the son of Anthony Perkins from Psycho, which is pretty cool. I mean, talented bloodline right there. Starring in this movie, we got Emma Roberts, Kiernan Shipka. I didn't realize how bad I was at reading names until I started doing this, but yes, Kiernan Shipka. I hope I got your name right there. We got Lucy Boynton and James Remar. In The Blackcoat's Daughter, the story follows two young women named Kat and Rose who are left behind at a prestigious boarding school while they start being haunted by an evil, invisible power. As we hop into the review for The Blackcoat's Daughter, we got a new Osgood Perkins movie coming out later this week with the monkey. We just had Longlegs last year, not too long ago. So I just kind of wanted to review Osgood Perkins movie first that I'd never seen before, and right before his new movie comes out. That's kind of why I was doing this review today. I'm a big fan of Longlegs. I really enjoyed it, and I've heard a lot about this movie. I believe this may have been his like first or second theatrical released movie, so one of his first ones here. But I've always kind of heard about it, but it's not as well known as Longlegs, or it seems like that the monkey's gonna be. So I'm a pretty big fan of psychological and demonic horror movies, and this is one that I've always heard kind of thrown into that subcategory. So I was definitely excited to check this movie out. Let's jump into the review here. First, talking about the positives or the things that I just really enjoyed about this movie is right off the bat, this is one of those horror movies, just like Frailty, which I spoke about in a video not too long ago. I felt it like tap and touch my soul a little bit and reminded me of childhood events that I wanted to forget, but the best kind of movies bring up those personal memories or those experiences for people, and this was definitely one of them, and one of them that I could tell right off the bat when I was watching it. I knew I was going to be in for something kind of special here. It's one of those movies that just hit me on a personal level. It's one of those movies that almost taps into that narcissistic part of your brain, or at least mine, where it makes me think just, oh my God, like I think they sat around the writer's room table and wrote this for me. I think that's what happened here. It's one of those movies that not only just relate to, but it connects to you on a more personal level, and that's the experience I had with this. But I didn't really grow up watching horror, psychological horror movies. I grew up in a pretty religious household that was sheltered from film and media like this. I never grew up watching movies like this or essentially anything that related to demonic stuff, spiritual stuff. I could not even be in the same room as something like that. Not only was I not allowed to watch that, but it was so scary to me and scarred me from what I was being told, that if I went over to a friend's house and they even started talking about a movie like this, I'd just get the chills and the sweats. So as I've gotten older here, I feel like I've kind of flipped the opposite, as many people from religious households do, I feel like. But I've found myself now kind of gravitating more towards these movies, not only because I could finally, ZakIsCinema is old enough to make his own decisions now, but just because they always scare me and feel more personal to me. These types of horror movies that really do just unsettle me and give me that childhood experience of watching a horror movie for the first time. As I watch movies like this, it's even scarier just seeing this and not only experiencing a movie that I definitely wouldn't have been able to watch when I was younger, but it just kind of, it brings me back to that time in my life, and I feel like I can really relate to these movies and just get so much more invested in them, if that makes sense. With this movie specifically, I found it even more unsettling because Kat, one of our main protagonists in the movie, also spoilers, I'm not going to go too in depth here, but one of our main protagonists, Kat, gets possessed and has this relationship with this entity in the movie, but she really doesn't do anything wrong. It's not like there was something going on in her life or a choice that she made that brought this demonic presence into her life. She did nothing wrong and was still somehow influenced and possessed by the devil himself. It just reminded me and put me back in that spot of just a child just constantly being scared that something like that could happen, and that's exactly how I felt watching this movie. So it was a pretty cool and unique experience. Next here, I think this movie does a pretty unique job in its storytelling and with its characters. It is broken up into chapters, but the chapters are split up into the 3 different main characters that we follow. First, we follow the 2 main girls. We got Rose and Kat, who are left behind at this boarding school. Their parents haven't picked them up, so they got to stay there. Well, we also follow Joan in our 3rd chapter, which is in a completely different setting from the other 2 characters. So as the movie goes on, the movie does a good job about teaching you and making you learn about these characters and all of these stories. And then when you stick through till the end of the movie, you see how they all kind of come together and get all intertwined. I just absolutely love movies that are set up like this because they don't just give you all the information right at the beginning, or they don't just have characters sit around, dump around exposition, but when you get well-made horror movies like this, it forces you to stay engaged and get invested, because if you don't, you're not going to be caught up to speed and you might miss something. And I feel like a movie like this kind of forces your engagement into the story, not only with the different characters, but just how they're split up into different chapters, and you kind of want to see how they all come together. I think Perkins here did a fantastic job writing this movie as well. Like I had mentioned, I honestly can't remember one single exposition scene, which is crazy because a movie like this could have just been vomiting exposition every couple of minutes here. But even scenes where you would expect an exposition scene, all the storytelling is just done through visuals, character decisions, and specifically more of these conversations that you kind of jump into, whether that's in the middle of the conversation or you kind of jump into the start of a conversation, but you don't have the context that our characters are really talking about. So you kind of have to piece those storytelling bits together yourself. And again, it's a neat little way to just keep you fully invested in the story, because you're trying to figure out what's going on, but then you're also trying to stay invested to figure out character motivations, character dynamics, and stuff like that. So for example, there's a great opening scene that they do this a couple times, I believe, in the movie, where it's not like a dream sequence, it's not really a flashback or a flash forward, but it's just kind of a visual is being shown. I believe in the beginning, Kat is sleeping, or I believe in her room, and she gets shown this visual. But like I said, it's not really like a dream sequence. It's more of just we get to see the inside of what a character is experiencing, if that makes sense. Kat gets this visual of being shown of her parents dying in a car accident. This not only is just a creepy scene and unsettling because you're kind of just thrown into this visual and you don't have the comfort knowing it's just a dream sequence, or it's just kind of like thrown in there using that non-linear storytelling and just showing you flashes of what our characters are experiencing from the possession stuff. This also does a great job at helping flesh out our characters a little bit more by telling you, specifically with Kat here, that she fears like abandonment and being left alone and being isolated, not only from the people around her, but from her family that was supposed to get her. So it does all this without having to say it. And then you also jump into another conversation with Rose and a friend, I believe in the school, and through dialogue you find out she's trying to decide on what to do with her pregnancy, that she just found out that she's pregnant. You could have scenes like that in movies where they just sit down and be like, oh man, I might have a baby right now. Like, dude, I don't know what to do. But it's not written like that. You have to pick up on it and pick up on the characters' emotions that they're showing in these conversations. It's just every scene like that is very well done and purposefully written like that. Next here, I also found this movie just downright creepy, unsettling, and not in your traditional demonic horror movie sense, like maybe the Conjuring, Annabelle movies, not like that haunted house demonic horror movies, which I do enjoy, but it's filled with beautiful atmosphere that just creates a sense of doom and dread all throughout. It felt very similar to movies like The Lodge, The Witch, The Night House, and Hereditary, and maybe even It Comes at Night. So if you like movies like that, have that type of atmosphere and vibe, I think you're going to absolutely love the type of atmosphere that this movie's going for. I think it's also elevated with its creepy setting. Any good horror movie is going to have a creepy setting, and this one is in a semi-abandoned Catholic school. So just the school setting in general, I find so creepy and unsettling. Almost like a hospital, where in a hospital, people are there that are supposed to help you. So when a horror movie takes place in a hospital or abandoned hospital, it just feels unnatural and just kind of makes your skin crawl a little. Same with school. School's supposed to be a place of learning, building friendships. You know, you're supposed to have some good memories there, but when it's just empty, isolated, dreadful Catholic school, not only is it bringing in those creepy religious undertones, but just the empty school in general is just creepy. I don't even know how to describe it. I think it's just because it's so big that so many things could be going on that our characters aren't even aware of, and I think they utilize that in some of the scares here throughout. So, but speaking of the setting, the scares are also very, very well done, and I think they do a good job throughout the whole movie, creating a sense of dread that something really bad is going to happen, and we're all building towards something. So I think they have great scares without being lazy jump scares. For example, like the scene of Kat struggling to breathe in her bed, and then all of a sudden you see her body contort and like bend over backwards, and it's almost like a quick flash with a creepy score, and then that's all you get. So it's not a jump scare, but it's putting our character in a creepy and just unnatural setting, situation, stuff like that. And then I think, honestly, one of the creepiest things I have ever seen in a movie, at least from what I can remember, is when you have Rose just hearing like voices through the air vents of the school through those old nasty radiators, and she's investigating it, goes down to the basement of the school. It looks abandoned, and then she goes towards the furnace room where you get just a little bit of light flickering in there, and then the camera pauses on her reaction for a quick second and then shows the audience what she's looking at, and it's just Kat possessed, not doing well, not normal Kat self, but just like I don't know how else to describe it, but just violently like bowing and like praying in like the corner of this furnace, and she's like bowing and praying towards something, but we can't see it. It's all covered in darkness. Like it looks like she's praying to something behind the school furnace. Like even talking about it, not only just with my experiences with religion, and I find this stuff so creepy and unsettling, I feel like even if I didn't have those experiences, a scene like this would be so creepy and unsettling. Like I had mentioned with the setting of the school, like there's so many things that could be happening that you have no idea what's going on. Like something like this, like if Rose never heard the mumbling through the radiators, she would have been praying to the devil as Rose was trying to go to sleep and never would have known. But just that she saw something she wasn't supposed to, and just they didn't need the devil like screaming down there or a big jump scare. Just the visual of her doing that, I don't think I'll ever get that out of my head. It was a fantastic scene that I keep thinking about here, unfortunately, but it was really well done. And I think they also do scares very, very well with its sound design. For example, towards the end, again, spoilers here, Kat gets caught with her demonic ritual that she's got going on with her 3 heads laid down on the floor. She's down in the school furnace again, where she was caught praying a couple scenes earlier. She's possessed and has been completely just overtaken by the devil or whatever this entity is. And then you get a cop come in, but we're hearing it from Kat's perspective, and the voice the cop makes is so just distorted and muffled. It reminded me of like reading something out of the book of Revelation, and when they describe what hell's like, that's the type of stuff I imagine it would be like being there in hell or in some cult seance or something, where you're hearing stuff like that, where it's just so distorted and muffled, sounds so unnatural that it could drive somebody insane. But that's how Kat's hearing it, that's how we're hearing it. And again, not a big jump scare, not like a creepy visual, just the way it uses sound in some of these simple scenes it really elevated it for me. And just I feel like I'm getting creeped out just talking about it a little bit here. But there's also just scares not only with its audio, visuals, stuff like that, but just within its story, within its dialogue, there's scares, at least for me. For example, when James Remar's character finds Joan and he's talking to her in the hotel that they're staying at, Joan's asking like why this character helped her in a situation that she's in, and he starts asking her if she believes in God, and then starts telling her that it's a sign from God. It wasn't just it was a coincidence that I couldn't ignore, seeing you there, seeing how you reminded me of my daughter, like I had to help you in that situation. And it's a sweet sentimental scene when you first see it, but then again, spoilers here, when you find out that the Joan character is actually Kat, and we're seeing 2 completely different timelines throughout the entire movie that we thought was just one, but you realize it was the possessed girl Kat. You now look back on a scene like that and see that the character is thinking that, like, hey man, this isn't a sign from God. This was a sign from the devil. The devil is orchestrating me to meet you here, so I have another opportunity like this. So it's just creepy stuff like that just makes me think about the movie long after I watched it and makes me want to revisit it. Is scenes like that. I think this movie is also not a very gory or that violent of a movie, but they do a great job at showing brief scenes of very graphic and realistic violence, so I think it stuck with me more and felt a lot more impactful. For example, there's a great scene of Kat standing over the camera, very similar to Kubrick in The Shining, filming Jack Torrance when he's in the freezer kitchen area. Very similar to that. And then when she's stabbing her victims, it goes from the shot below her just to quick cuts of these like violent stabbings that she's doing. So they do a good job at limiting the gore up until the end, and you get brief scenes of it, so it feels more impactful and it feels more violent. I also in this movie really enjoyed how when you kind of break this down, it's such a simple story, but it's told in a way that's way more compelling and creative. Breaking it up into chapters, breaking it up into 3 different characters, and then having twists along the way where you figure out it's all just one timeline. 2 of our characters that we've been following, it's the same character, just 9 years separated. At the end of the day, if it was told linear, it'd be so simple, straight to the point, but it's told in this way where it almost makes you feel just as disoriented as the characters in situations like this. So I think it works well for that psychological aspect, but it also for me just makes me want to rewatch it, re-experience it now that I have more information. I'm curious to see how it'll play. The best types of horror, especially psychological horror, it's essentially just a drama at the center of it. Like with this movie, it's essentially a movie about a girl who's isolated and lonely and lost her family, but she tries to find connections or try to cope with the things around her, doesn't know how to, turns to the first thing that gives her comfort, and it turns out to not be the best thing. So typical drama stuff, but you throw that little twist in there, the thing she turns to is hello, the devil. It makes for a great horror movie, but you're invested because it's a great drama, great story right in the center of it first. I think these good dramas turned horror movies always make me feel like it's more of a realistic experience. It makes it feel a little bit more grounded, therefore sticks with me a lot more. But yes, let's jump into my next section here, talking about the mixed aspects of the movie for myself. Right off the bat, I don't have any outright negatives. Not saying that there's no negatives with the movie, just in my experience, I didn't see any of these details as negatives for myself. These are mixed feelings, things that could go up, could go down based on rewatch or with time for myself. First, I think it's purposefully done, but you just don't feel very close with any of our characters, like Joan, Kat. Well, I guess Kat's the same character. Then you got Rose. So Rose and Kat, you just don't feel very close with them. And I get that that's the point of just creating this sense of dread, impending doom. There's not really any hope for our characters, so they don't give our characters any hope, or it felt difficult to get attached to any of them. So when the crazy demonic shit at the end starts happening, I just found myself not really rooting for anyone to get out of it. I was just kind of invested, just trying to see what would happen, how this would all conclude. Like, I feel like it's purposefully done, but you just don't have those characters in the traditional sense where, big personalities, easy to connect to. But I think that adds to the atmosphere of the movie, but kind of hurts it at the same time, because I think with Rose, there was stuff missing there. They set up something interesting where she's not sure what to do with this pregnancy. That's really about it. Like, you're not invested in a relationship with the boyfriend. You're not invested with her. I mean, you feel bad. You don't want to see an innocent person go through situations like this, but I think they missed out on having Rose just like this character you could latch into, so it made everything around it feel a lot more tragic and hurtful. Also here, I think the ending is unfortunately a pretty big mixed aspect for me, and I think this one could definitely go lower or higher with rewatch. I'm just not sure yet. For me, I was so invested in the movie, especially at that point where I was just like locking in. I'm like, sweet. Like, I think we're getting to the climax here. I'm good if this movie's another 20-25 minutes. Like, I'm fine. I think it'll be perfect if it can stick it. And then the movie just kind of ends. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about here, and I understand the ending. I appreciate its sad and dark, hopeless ending that it leaves you off on. I like movies that don't pull their punches like that or try to create a sense of hope out of nothing or didn't earn it. I do appreciate that, but at the same time, it just felt like it was cut off right before the last couple of scenes or right before the ultimate climax. However, as I'm sitting with it more, it does, like, I do appreciate it. I like how it left off. Just for myself, I was just like, I was ready for another 10 minutes. I think it could have used a more concrete conclusion or somewhat of a just like a more of a full arc for our main character, I guess Kat, in this situation. See, I get the point of it, that she's the same character by the end of it, because she put all her hope into something that was never going to fulfill her, and now look where her life is. Look what she's done. I don't know, I would have liked for a little bit more, and it's in my mix because I can't clearly state what I was looking for. Just, I hate how abrupt it felt, how abrupt it left me feeling. I don't know if I'm alone with that, but that's just what I was left there with. Overall, I would say this is a great psychological horror movie that really tapped into my childhood, my religious trauma here, but it had great atmosphere and a movie that stuck in my head ever since I watched it. It's a movie that I really enjoyed and is easily going on my list of favorite horror movies or horror movies to recommend to people. So for my rating for this movie, I have it as, I don't own this movie yet, but it is one that I will buy and add to my collection as soon as possible. I'd be fine paying full price for a movie like this. So it's one of those movies that I will rewatch. I'm already wanting to rewatch it, and I highly recommend it to people, especially people that really enjoy slow burn psychological horror movies. I think you'll really, really enjoy this movie. So that's about it here. You have my thoughts here on the Blackcoat's Daughter. Let me know down below, have you seen this movie? Do you enjoy this movie? movie? What are your thoughts about the Blackcoat's daughter? How do you like the ending? I'm kind of curious if I'm alone in that feeling, but let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. Let me know if you're looking forward to The Monkey coming out pretty soon. Thanks again for clicking on another ZakIsCinema video. I really do appreciate anybody watching my videos, especially sticking all the way towards the end here. So thank you so much. Look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.